Hello again, my name is Bragster and welcome back to some more Shorthand. We are back again. It's because I finished another unit before even my first Shorthand video came out. So my Unit 7 one hasn't even came out. At the time of recording, that one hasn't even came out yet. That's how busy I've been. This one was a long unit to do. It has 9.8 exercises, something like that, in this unit. That is, well, 8 exercises to our dictation. Well, 10 exercises to a dictation. So I've done 8 exercises. This one is about, if you don't know already, the use of vowels. Now, vowels are, up to this stage, vowels don't really have much meaning to us. So a lot of the time we ignore vowels, we don't really put them in. We just know that at the start of words, at the end of words, they appear and sometimes appear in the middle, but we don't know why. Here we finally get some answers. We finally understand why things happen. We also learn about the R principles. Now, I remember mentioning at the end of the last video about R principles and about how it introduced the idea of, no, it was PL. Yes, it was the whole PL situation, introducing the idea of letters crossing through other letters. This is finally really addressed here. The R principle is a principle that is very, very important, especially in when using vowels and certain vowels. And this one took up a lot of room. I'm just flicking through. You can just clearly see there's a lot here. Now, little disclaimer, a couple of those pages, that's how much is on this exercise, by the way, on this unit. Some of these pages are used for my shorthand sessions, so not all of them are about Unit 9, but so I've done some dictations, I've done some shorthand, and apparently my shorthand looks reasonably good for the stage that I'm at, which is a bit of a compliment, you know. It's nice to hear that I'm doing a good job. And you know, the other thing I thought I'd reiterate that my teacher addressed to me, which was, I'm at Unit 9, you should be nowhere near 60 words per minute by now. Like, nowhere near. You should get baffled when hearing all this stuff. It's mainly towards the end, so it's all about getting towards the end of this. So I'm motoring on to get to the end of Unit 20, and she's also motoring forward with her stuff. But I'm a little bit ahead of where she's teaching at the moment, so I usually just sit back, listen to what she's saying. I carry on with the book, and then if she's talking about something that I haven't quite learnt yet, I'll listen and write all those stuff down. So that's why this unit felt a lot longer as well, is because I've spent quite a few days on it. And I was doing really, really well. Pretty much up to Unit 9.8, or exercise 9.8, sorry. I was doing really well. Like, I understood a lot of this stuff. The letter A, the letter E, there's not much on the letter E. The letter E is probably the easiest letter to learn. There's not many rules at all with the letter E, so keep that in mind, because that's a really good thing. To have less rules on a certain letter is really good, because it means that you can get less confused. The letter A has quite a lot to do with it. The letter O, I haven't shown you the letter O yet. There's quite a few rules on the letter O. Introducing the R principle once again for words like orange. O also blends really well with a letter N and M. Just because they're curved, it means that the O can attach to them in certain ways, like you can see with the M up here. It blends really well with the M's. And then that leads on to exercise 9.5, exercise 9.6. You get through a lot these exercises quite quickly, just because they just hit you quick and fast. You get the classic five sentences, but you also get the exercises which I really like, which they've not really done much before, which is write the following words in Teeline, trying to teach you, if you hear those words, what to write down. That's really clever. I really like that, because it really emphasizes the rules that you're given. So sometimes you might forget a rule. I know quite a few times I forgot certain rules. I forgot that sometimes A comes off the line for certain things, or I forgot that O does that for certain things. So it's really trying to emphasize those points, and I really like that. It did the same for the letter U. The letter U, now the letter U has quite a few. That's like a whole page on the letter U there. It has quite a lot to do with it. Now, the issue with U is the indicator for U and the indicator for E are the same. This means that you could possibly get confused between the two. You shouldn't with context, but again, I think we've spoken about, sorry, my trousers were messed up a little bit there. It can, under pressure, get to you, and it got to me a few times. I was like, how am I going to know the difference? It's all about context, and we obviously, I know we've spoken about millions of times, how are you supposed to know context at the start of sentences? It's rather difficult. I've learned sometimes get a notepad like this, just a tiny little notepad. I don't know the size of the notepad, so I'm not going to say it, I'm not going to embarrass myself. So you get a notepad like this, and as you can see, I put blanks in. So I got to the middle of the sentence and I really wasn't sure what the rest of the words are. So I put blank, blank, the blank was handled blank by the lawyer. And I really got there, and doing that sometimes helps fill in those blanks, because rather than just having your head full of all of these words you want to write down, writing it down on a separate piece of paper and trying to work those words out, sometimes that problem solving element can sometimes help actually the words sticking in your head, especially if they're special outlines. That really starts to stick in your head. You're like, right, are these special outlines, are these not? If they are, you're like, right, I need to think of these. If they're not, you're like, right, I know they're not a special outline, so what am I going to do? How am I going to work out what this word is? And hopefully with the rest of the context you can work out, even if it's just one or two words, sometimes you might not get it. Sometimes I didn't get it, because we'll get to exercise 9.8 in a minute, but that exercise kind of annoyed me, but we'll get to that. But it was like, right, okay, what words would I put in this sentence in that place? Does that work with the Teeline, yes or no? That problem solving element will help a lot with trying to work out, right, what works, what doesn't work. Then we got to more special outlines. There was a lot of special outlines this time, and then some word groupings and stuff there, but a lot of special outlines. These special outlines are useful, like some really useful special outlines here. Ones that you will hear quite often when people are talking, which is always good. I like it when I get a special outline for words that I will come across quite often. Like when I got the special outline for people, I knew that one was going to come up quite often. This one, you've got or, only, individual, opportunity, hand, because the special outline for hand also applies to words like handsome, handle, handicap. So knowing those makes life a lot easier, because they are words you come across quite often, which is a lot easier to remember those ones because you know they're going to come up, so you seem to remember them better. It's the ones that you don't come across very often that are the hardest ones to remember. Those are the ones you'll probably have to drill, which is a word that my teacher likes to use, drilling, but it does work. I know if not necessarily do I drill it, I don't personally drill it if I know the Teeline, as in like if I know roughly what only looks like, I won't. But if I struggled to write it on my first go, so if I'm trying to write it, I hesitated or I struggled, I would then on this pad, this tiny little pad, I drilled a few. I drilled a few ones that I struggled to actually write down. Just I would either pause or it would look scruffy. So I drilled those so it looked good while saying the word in my head. And that does really help a lot. I think this unit is the first one to really push me, like to the limit. Exercise 9.8 nearly broke me. That's how hard I found that exercise. You guys might not find it difficult, same as I might not found things difficult previously that you might have done. But this is the first one to really push me, because I pushed the idea of vowels to the back of my mind. I was like, I need to forget about them, it's okay. All of a sudden, vowels were everywhere. So it was very difficult. And then exercise 9.8, the first time ever there were 2 lines for 1 sentence. The first time that had happened up to this point. Deary me, this was tough. I have a bone to pick with this exercise. I'll get to that. I know I'm really amping it up. The tension is unreal. I forgot to mention with A as well, there's air, aero and arch are things after an auto. This, as well as the vowels, it also uses vowels to remove other letters as well and to create shortcuts. Shortcuts are always good in Teeline, just because you can slowly gather what's going on, and especially if it takes up 5 letters in one, as I've mentioned before, that's not only less for you to write down, but it's also less for you to understand when reading it back, because if you know, oh, those 5 letters, that is 5 letters, and I know what those 5 letters are, boom, you know it, and you can write it down. It's a lot quicker and can come to your head a lot easier. This took a few days for me to get the hang of this exercise. I did go back over some things. Even if I didn't write it down, I read back over things that I didn't understand. This might be an exercise you take a while on, because if I've written a lot and I've gone back over things, it might take a while for you to get it. And that's fine. I'm not saying I'm the be all and end all, and you know, if I'm going to struggle, you're going to struggle, but it's just, I know if I'm going to struggle with it, there are going to be others that will struggle with it. And I know people that are struggling with the earlier units. I know people that have just raced ahead as well. So it kind of just depends on the person you are, and that is fine. Like, do not compare yourself to others. That is something I've learned to do quite often recently, is don't compare yourself to others, because what's easy for you might not be easy for them, and vice versa. So don't compare. Just think about what are your strengths, your weaknesses. Yes, think about what other people's strengths are so you can ask them for help, but don't compare yourself to other people, because everyone's got their different strengths, everyone's got their different weaknesses. And my weakness was exercise 9.8. That was the hardest exercise I've ever done. Ever. The words for me just didn't make sense. I forgot a couple of things. So European has an outline to it, which is the R principle for you, and that's fun. Forgot that European was one of the, not a special outline, but it was kind of put across as one. There's a lot of other stuff in here as well, stuff we haven't come across much before. A lot of is a group and was probably a special outline earlier in the book. I completely forgot about that. It wasn't one that I came across very often in these exercises. It suddenly came up again and I had no idea. Hopefully I'll remember that for next time. But it was just... it was the way some of the sentences were worded. I'll go over a couple here. One of them, as your house is so big, you ought to let one of the rooms. On the other hand, you may not like this idea at all. It just doesn't sound like a conversation. One of the other ones was, I hope you realise that you are always uppermost in my thoughts. After all, you are my only son. Like, it sounds like a robot talking, and I feel like that's where I've struggled a lot, is the way I read is I read as if I'm saying it, which is why it takes me so long to actually read. I don't like reading at all. I really do struggle with it. That's a conversation for another day. But because I struggle with it, when I'm reading stuff, I almost speak it in my head. So when I'm reading shorthand, I do the same thing, I just speak it, and it really does help for a lot of these exercises. This one it didn't, because they were all speaking like robots and I didn't have a clue what any of them were saying. It really made me feel like I wasn't progressing. Then I took a step back, I looked, and you look at, yes, I made some mistakes, but you look at the red stuff and you look at the black stuff, and there's a lot more black. There is, and I feel like I need to commemorate myself for the fact that there's a lot more black on this page. And as the exercise goes on, and as I learn little tips and tricks, there's even more black on there, and then red, and that's great. That's great. But yeah, I really struggled with this exercise. This was the hardest thing for me. For whatever reason, my watch just went off. That was the really hard one for me. The next one is vowel indicators as word endings. So we get to ing, ingle, ang, ong, ung, eng. That's going to be a fun video, isn't it? It's going to be like the ritty and litty. When I was doing that over and over again, it's going to be ang, ong, eng. I'm just going to be doing that the entire time. And inge, ange, onge, unge, enge. And then ank, ink, onk, unk. I'm just going to sound like an idiot. That entire video, the next one, is just going to be me sounding like an idiot. But this exercise is one that I think you've got to take with perspective, and I think that's important. That's why I want to talk about this and why I'm taking a bit longer with this video to tell you about this. It's all about perspective. As I said, look at the amount of black on your page to red and do my little trick, alright? I know it might not be something that people like, but do my little trick. Try and fill in blanks, put in the blanks, put in where you know words are. Like, I knew the word was handled, I knew the word was lawyer, I knew the word was, so I put them in the right places. You do that, you might be able to, and this is a might, you might be able to work out one of the other words. And if you can work those words out, brilliant. That's what it's all about. Because when you're reading your shorthand back, when you are reading shorthand, because that's what it's teaching you to do, these exercises. Some of them are teaching you to write it, some of them are teaching you to read it. Depends which way, because obviously the certain exercises are built more to swing one way than the other. And just, it's teaching you to read it, and you know the context. If you've written it, you know the context, so you'll read it back and you'll be like, right, I know that word, I know that word. Oh, I can work out this one. You don't know the context here, so make it like you know the context. Write in, put in blanks, put it on a separate piece of paper where you're almost doing it like a hangman thing, because that will help you fill in context, and by helping you fill in context, you may be able to work out the words, and that's what it's all about. It's all about knowing these words and trying to get them in your head, and the only way to get them in your head is either by getting them wrong or problem solving them and getting them right. You know, no one ever does perfectly on their first go, and this is this is a big unit. Unit 9 is one of the biggest units so far, might be the biggest one in the book. If you make mistakes, don't put yourself down. And if you feel like you need to go back over something, go back over something. That's okay. Again, do not compare yourself to others. If others fly through this unit, good for them. If you don't, then fine. It's fine. And that's, for me, this unit was the toughest one for me personally. Might be the easiest one for you. But I hope this has helped some people in terms of knowing different tricks, knowing how I tackled some of these problems might help you tackle the problems yourselves, and I hope it has. If you have enjoyed it, do hit that like button, because it will encourage me to do more of these videos to help you guys. Put any questions down in the comments, please. I'm more than willing to help some of you out, and my Twitter is always in the description. My DMs are always open for any of you to contact me if you do need a helping hand with shorthand, and I will help as best I can. If you're new here, please do subscribe so you know when these videos come out, and I shall see all of you guys in the next video. See ya!